Missouri Arts Council next on City Corner. Hi, I'm Sarah Thompson, and welcome to City Corner. Each year, the Missouri Arts Council grants approximately $4.8 million to more than 550 nonprofit organizations to help fund their programs, their arts programs. They do so much around the state, and today we're going to learn more about that. I'm joined by the Executive Director of the Missouri Arts Council, Michael Donovan. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Sarah.
So I hope I started that off right. $4.8 million in grants to help fund programs for 552 organizations around the state. You know, people hear, I think they see the Missouri Arts Council logo and MAC. People hear MAC a lot, but I don't necessarily know if everyone knows fully what it is that, as a state agency, that you do. So maybe you could start us off with that.
This is true. Even though we've been around since 1965, this is our 53rd year, and we're now have been for many years, part of the Department of Economic Development. And we're a state agency. So even though we're in St. Louis, I think we're the only state agency that's entirely out of Jefferson City. We're downtown in the old post office building across from Culinaria, and that's where we do the work of providing support and promotion for the arts in Missouri. And we do this for a number of reasons. We do this because the arts are important to the state, not just for the arts, but because it's important to the communities, community development, arts education, the economic development, as we'll talk about. This is an important thing. So it's mostly nonprofit arts organizations that we fund, but it's also nonprofit organizations that are not arts organizations that we fund, like the community health and other organizations like that. So.
No, it's wonderful. And I think a lot of people, I think this is the time of year, people too, where it's grants, you're funding. So you have to get application for grants. But I've also been surprised when reading about there's other things that you sort of help provide services and assistance outside of the direct funding. Can you tell me more about that?
Well, we've also provided a lot of technical assistance to organizations, helping with their development, their marketing, giving them assistance, mostly professional development assistance in those areas. But we also have some initiatives that are important to us. Arts education is a big one. This is something in which we're looking at supporting the arts, not just for the fine arts specialists, the teachers who are doing visual art and music and dance and theater, but also the classroom teachers that are increasingly using the arts in very strong and effective ways to teach their subject area using art techniques, and that's an important area for us. We have Poetry Out Loud as one of our project areas. This is a national competition that was initiated by the National Endowment for the Arts for high school students who were doing a recitation of poetry and do it as a local, in the school, in the region, and in the state competitions. And the top competitor there goes to the national competition, which will take place this year, April 23rd through the 25th in Washington, D.C. And our state champion this year was Shakira Cross from Hickman High School in Columbia, Missouri. She's a 17-year-old senior. She did a great competition, a great presentation of her poems, 3 poems that she did, along with 8 other competitors from regions across the state.
Yeah, and I think we have a picture of her that we'll get to in a bit. We've got some slides, and I want to go over that because they really talk about the economic impact of the arts. I think sometimes people are like, oh, you know, the arts, that it somehow falls down, but it really is an important industry in so many ways. So let's kind of go through some of this. I mean, direct expenditures, but you can sort of elaborate on a lot of this that we're going to see.
This is $1 billion story for the state of Missouri, so this is a significant outcome. What happened was this was a study done with the Americans for the Arts. This is the 25th year that they do it. They do it every 5 years. And it included 7 other communities around the state, including St. Louis, Kansas City, St. Joseph, Joplin, Springfield, Columbia, and Hannibal. And the district of Grant Center Arts District also did a study. And it was studying nonprofit arts and culture. So it included groups like the St. Louis Zoo, St. Louis Symphony, small organizations as well. And the study conducted was measuring the money that the organization spent, as well as the audiences going to those arts programs.
Okay.
So that combined effort, those combined direct money, this is not a multiplier effect.
Right.
These are the exact dollars that are spent, over $1 billion for the state of Missouri every year.
Wow. Wow. That's I mean, that's a lot.
So the event-related spending, this $436 million, is by the audiences. Wow. This is not including the admission price. This is everything but the admission price. Travel, overnights, hotels, restaurants, babysitters. A lot of money is spent in relationship to spending on the arts, and it's one of the reasons why the arts are such a powerful economic development for businesses, for other businesses.
Yeah, there's so many. I mean, it's not just that, like you're saying, that one show, or
Right.
there's so much that goes into it. All right, let's take a look at the next one.
Okay, almost 32,000 jobs. That's a big deal. You know, we have a lot of jobs created because of this, not just artists, but tech-related jobs and things like that throughout the state. And that's an important thing. And that's what also generates the revenues for the state and local economies, or for the state and local governments, I should say. The state, it was $47 million per year, and for local governments, it's $42 million.
All right, let's take a look. I think there's
21 million people attending. This is in a state of 6 million people. So obviously people are going to the arts a lot and seeing arts over and over again. And I think that's something that impresses me as I go around the state. There's art in every part of the state. It's not just happening in St. Louis and Kansas City. It's happening in every community. Artists are everywhere. And I think it's part of what makes this a great state to live in.
Yeah, no, I want to talk more about here's one more, and then I'll ask you about traveling around the state.
This was the state and local government revenues, the 47 and 42 million combined is the $89 million.
Wow.
And that comes from what the audience is spending, sales tax money, job, income taxes. That's what generates that money.
So when people say to you, you know, when you hear it, especially when you're in Jeff City and you're talking about the importance of funding for the arts, and people kind of want to knock it down on that sort of totem pole, what's your response when you see, especially with this kind of data?
Well, I'll tell you what the response we're getting from the legislators is that they're surprised. They're impressed with the impact that it has on the state. And they're making those statements in the budget hearings that I go to. This is impressive. So that was why it was important for us to do that study for the state. And this information came in last year. So this is fresh data.
And you were talking about you travel, obviously you're based here in St. Louis, but you're going all over the state. And you're right, outside of Kansas City, outside of St. Louis, Columbia, Springfield, some of the bigger cities, you're still seeing a lot of amazing sort of performing arts, visual arts. So tell me about that when you're traveling all over the state. What has surprised you the most? Or perhaps not surprised you, but what is it that you're seeing?
On Thursday, we had just finished the state competition. And as we left there, we went to Mexico, Missouri, which is about 30 minutes north of Jefferson City. And they had completed a $3.5 billion performing arts center project in a very small community. I was impressed. I was a little bit surprised because you don't normally see that in a small community, but it was a beautiful theater facility, classrooms, visual art space, exhibition space. And this happens all over. But one of the things I think that make the arts such a powerful economic development tool is that you don't have to build a convention center or a performing arts center for it to be effective. The arts themselves, the events themselves, have that effect on the small community, and it makes us one of the most accessible economic development tools for a small community anywhere.
And the arts do have this way of bringing people together who normally wouldn't. It's the one, whether, you know, it's kind of that one area that brings people together across all areas, and can collectively bring them together. We've got a lot of photos that I kind of want to walk through, and I think they reflect some of the programs that are partially funded by MAC, and maybe you could kind of tell us a bit more about them. So we'll start off with the first one.
True False in Columbia has been a huge success. It's gotten international attention. People come from all over the country and from outside the country to come to this festival. It just ended about a week ago. And it has truly been one of the most successful things. They do documentary filmmaking is what their focus is on, but they've turned it into a fun event in this March is what they call it, is one of the examples that you see on the screen.
Okay, all right.
This is Shakira Cross. She was the person who just received the state competition for the Poetry Out Loud. She's from Hickman High School in Columbia, and she was a very strong contestant. I think this was her second year at the state competition, but now she'll go on to DC.
That's fantastic.
This is Chillicothe, and I think this is a Chautauqua in the Park. Again, another example of a small community who's recognized the value of the arts and has done a lot to encourage it and strengthen it. They have something they just opened up a couple of years ago called Cultural Corners, where they decided they had a space in their downtown square that they wanted to develop, and created a space where people can go and do their art.
All right.
This is St. Joseph, perhaps?
Okay.
I can't remember which
Yeah,
organization
no, I
this
mean,
is.
we're talking about a lot of organizations
Right.
across the state. So this is just another one of the different programs. I mean, really, too, with
Looks
your
like Music Man to me.
Yeah, it does look like Music Man. And again, it's like we're talking about so many different genres of the arts of organizations that you work with. We'll keep going and take a look at the next one. This is probably another event that was programmed.
Well, this is Hannibal. I recognize this now. This is Hannibal. They have a space downtown Hannibal, not far from the river, and they very frequently, somebody had donated the grand piano to them, and they frequently have musical events that people come to and just sit there in the gallery. This is the Butterfly Effect. This is the mural that was created in Joplin after the tornado that happened. And the story comes from the people who had survived the tornado and had seen people that looked like butterflies, butterfly people they called them, and this happened for more than one person. So they put that into the mural that they built to kind of commemorate the event and to bring the city together. Since then, they've created many more murals, and they've really become a very diverse and interesting mural community.
Oh, it's beautiful. This is Kansas City Ballet.
Yes, this is one of my favorite dance photographs. It's a beautiful photograph.
Beautiful.
And I think it shows you what some of the effort and dedication it takes to be a dancer at that level. We're very fortunate to have a number of dance companies in the state, mostly in St. Louis and Kansas City, Columbia and Springfield. And this is one of them.
Yeah. Maybe.
This is the Kansas City Walk and Chalk Festival. And you can see the scope, the scale of the images that they do outside for this event. I don't remember which group this is.
It's all right. Yeah, well, we've got, listen, we've got
But
a lot.
it's one of the most endearing pictures that I've seen, I have to say. The kids that are in this thing are an example of the many arts programs for kids. A lot of times parents will support art programs for kids that they don't participate in themselves, but supporting this for the children is important for the audiences of the future.
Well, we're going to take a quick break, but we've got some information there for you on the screen. If you want to learn more about the Missouri Arts Council, please head to their website. It's MissouriArtsCouncil.org, or you can call the toll-free number that you see on the screen. It's 866-407-4752. Don't go anywhere. We're going to talk more with Michael Donovan of the Missouri Arts Council and actually learn about an arts and military program that's coming up as well. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.
Marie, you have prediabetes.
Prediabetes? I don't have time to eat right or exercise. I'm a busy mom.
Oh, you're a busy mom.
Yeah.
This is great news. Busy moms never get prediabetes.
Wait, what?
Let me just... Yeah, this is all the people at risk for prediabetes, and way over here, busy moms. No?
Sarah Thompson, and welcome back to City Corner. Today we're talking with Michael Donovan. He's the Executive Director of the Missouri Arts Council, which again I got to emphasize because this is so strong, which provides $4.8 million in grants for programs by 552 organizations for 6.1 million people in 150 communities across the state. So impressive, and just it's so great. And I know so many organizations rely on your funding and your awards, your grants. And speaking of which, we could just kind of add that in. We just said this was the week that people had to submit their applications for grants.
Yeah, the Monday night was the deadline for our annual
You had a long
grants.
Monday night.
It was a long Monday night. I was there till midnight, giving assistance. This was also a year in which we had a new online grant system.
Oh, wow.
So we had a few technical difficulties, but people got through it, and we had about 325 applicants just for these annual grants, most of whom have applied to us before.
And so many organizations really rely on it. I mean, specific programs really rely on those dollars. We have. Oh,
But
go
we
ahead.
also have express grants. These are the grants that we fund throughout the year. So there's still grant opportunities throughout the year, even if you haven't applied for the annual grant.
Okay, no, that's good to know, and we'll be sure to mention that before we wrap up the show. I want to kind of get back to some of the photos that really just look at some of the organizations that you help fund. We've just got a few more to go through, and we'll take a look at that.
This is our Missouri Folk Arts program, and they have a traditional artist and apprentice program. So this is a master artist teaching a younger generation the traditional arts and preserving those traditions for the future.
Okay.
And this is another folk arts program as well. This is the Arts and Aging Kansas City group organization doing one of their performances. This is the St. Joseph Sculpture Walk that they do in their area, in their community. St. Louis Artworks is a program here in St. Louis. They're on Del Mar, and they work with high school students, train them in the arts, and work with businesses and communities on commission pieces. This is Big Buddy Dance Company doing a program called Senior Engage, working with an older generation. This is Opera Theater, showing their expansive theater and the large audience for opera theater. And the International Festival takes place every summer in Tower Grove Park.
That's a popular one, very popular.
One of my favorites. And this is a festival on Cherokee Street.
Another place
St.
that,
Louis.
I mean, just has grown and grown and grown, and I think really shown people that there is a place for even, just different types of arts from the galleries that are there and the performances that they have. I mean, Cherokee Street's pretty fascinating.
This is a neighborhood that is really driven by a creative spirit. And you see that not only in the businesses and the arts groups that go there and their events. This is the Symphony's outreach into the schools. St. Louis Symphony.
I mean, when you sum up to people, when, your job, let's say you're at a dinner party, what is it that you do? I mean, what is it that you feel you keep coming back to in the sense of the essence of the arts in Missouri, or the spirit, the creative spirit here in Missouri? I mean, how do you describe that when you're kind of traveling all over the state and you're seeing all this amazing creativity and investment in the arts? How do you describe it?
I think for me, what inspires me is that there's art everywhere in the state. It's not just in the major urban areas, but it's all over the state. There's artists everywhere, and it makes a difference everywhere. We really are doing this to improve the communities and to make this a better place to live and work. And I think that's what really inspires me as I go to work every day and work with our staff of 10 people.
Well, that's great. You just came off the 36th Annual Missouri Arts Awards. Tell me about that. What is that?
Well, this is something where we're trying to recognize and promote the people in the community, well, not just people, but organizations and communities themselves who are really supporting the state with their art. So we've got people that are individual artists. Solomon Thurman was the individual artist this year. He's got a gallery downtown on 10th Street, and he was recognized this year. Arts educators, Jeff Sandquist from Rolla was recognized this year. Philanthropy, Tom and Kathy Tsukiyama, who supported many organizations, but also Stages St. Louis is one of the organizations that they've supported. What else have we got? The creative community this year is a neighborhood I live in, incidentally, the Del Mar Loop. And they were recognized for their creative impact, and Joe Edwards received the award for that. And there were a couple more organizations that were
And are those
we're
submitted
recognizing.
by nominations?
They're nominated by individuals or the organizations themselves and reviewed by an outside panel and selected, approved by our council in October, and then recognized at the event at the state capitol in February.
No, that's great. You covered, is there anything, we talked about Poetry Out Loud. I know that's something that's kind of been currently going on. I think we covered that. There's something else coming up called Art Ease, and this is sort of arts and the military, and we've got the graphic there. What's coming up on this April 26th date?
Well, we're going to have a convening of arts in the military. It's the first time this has happened in Missouri. And this is of increasing importance around the country. A lot of other states are doing this. The National Endowment for the Arts is supporting this, along with the Mid-America Arts Alliance. And this is something to promote and show how the arts are a healing effect on the military, both people in the military and veterans who've come out of the military. It's shown to be a therapeutic value to people with traumatic brain injuries and post-traumatic stress disorder, and in terms of getting prepared for occupational therapy. So we're going to gather arts organizations, individuals, military people. We've got a keynote speaker, Lieutenant Brigadier General Nolan Blivens, who's going to be the keynote for the event at the Kansas City Public Library on the Plaza.
Okay, and so this is going to, and do you see this as an event that's going to be?
I think out of this, we're hoping to get people to understand, particularly get arts organizations in the military to think about collaborating together and doing more of this. And so they'll get ideas, different models of how this is being done with things like the Telling Project, the Missouri Humanities Council's Writers Anthology, Veterans Writers Program, the Comedy Boot Camp is another program that we're going to be talking about, that have all been done to veterans and military people experiencing the arts and the benefits of that. So that's what we're hoping they'll get, is that there'll be more of these types of activities in the state. They'll learn how to do it. They'll get the connections and contacts for learning how to do it.
Right, because there is that sort of healing power, and I noticed even with a lot of the programs that we talked about through the photos that so many organizations have in going out in the community, there is that element of the sort of therapy and the healing that that the arts can bring about. I was curious to get your take on sort of the role of technology more and more in the arts and what you're sort of seeing with that, because it's just something that continues to grow, and now you're seeing festivals that combine arts or performing arts but also technology. Is that something you're seeing more and more around the state?
I think, as technology changes society, it inevitably is going to change everything with it. So what we've seen in the arts is not only does technology change how the art is created, it's changed how it's distributed, how we enjoy it. We're doing things with more streaming media and appreciating even this program is obviously is going to be streamed and enjoyed online. So that's one of the things that we're helping organizations learn how to do more of that so that they can reach more audiences and have a broader effect in the community they're in.
And that also brings in the question then of the challenges, right, that you probably hear from some of the organizations. I mean, there's the sort of the great periods that we all have, but there's also the challenges. I mean, there's organizations that do struggle for funding and to keep their doors open. And so what do you hear on that side of things? I mean, you're probably hearing it a lot to a certain extent, but
we're hearing those challenges a lot from organizations. And technology is part of that too. There's a lot more competition for our time and attention and audiences, and people are finding it easy to get their interest in music and theater and things online as opposed to live theater and live music. So we're helping organizations to meet that challenge and find ways to engage their audiences so that they have a different type of experience in a live setting.
And do you think, I mean, that kind of, when you get into theater, as you mentioned, or films, where now you can just pull up something on Netflix versus going to a film festival, things like that, that take away sort of the actual act of going into a theater or to a venue. I mean, what do you think the approach is going to be? I mean, what are you sort of saying to some of the organizations to help to go against that? Are you saying, like you said, engage your audiences, engage your base a bit more, but what else?
People are hungry for experiences. And it's a different experience to experience something live. So we're teaching them to find ways to engage with their audience, to teach them more, to add different layers on top of the experience that they're going to have in person that they would get online. So that's really what the message is to teach them to have something that's dynamic, that is present, that is personal and immediate.
So it's this kind of, you need the media to kind of help get the
You need the
message out,
media,
but at the same time, you
absolutely.
need people to understand that there is a true experience to be had by experiencing something in person, and experiencing that art in person. I want to get about your background a bit too. How long have you been executive director?
3 years.
3 years
3 years.
now.
I've been with the Missouri Arts Council 14 years.
And so tell me a bit about your background.
Well, my background started in visual arts. As an undergraduate, I went to UMKC, and within a year, I realized that I was going to need more education and more experience in order to support myself. And I was learning about arts administration, something I'd never heard about in the classroom, and went back to school at University of Illinois, Springfield, to get my master's in arts administration. And I've been at it ever since, mostly with nonprofit arts organizations, but the last 14 years with the state. And to me, that was just another type of community arts organization. It's just a larger community where we're focused on creating a community that is improved by the presence of the arts.
Is there any part of Missouri that you haven't been to yet that's on your next list that?
You know, there are pockets of Missouri I haven't been to. I've been fortunate to be able to get to a large part of it. But having grown up in St. Louis, I really appreciate that we have a strong arts community here. We have strong support for it in the Regional Arts Commission and Arts and Education Council. So we're very fortunate in St. Louis to have the quality of art that we have, from the Art Museum to the St. Louis Symphony to all the arts organizations around the community.
And for people watching this, if they want to learn more, what are they going to find on your website? We've talked about the grant, the ability for grant applications and more information about that. You also cover, I believe, a lot that goes on in the community, in the arts community.
Well, we talk about the arts all over the state. We try to give access to the arts so that whether we fund them or not, and most of the times we're funding them, people can learn about the arts on our website at MissouriArtsCouncil.org.
Okay, all right, well, we've got the information there for you as on the screen, as Michael just said. Head to MissouriArtsCouncil.org. You can find out information not just about applying for grants and funding to the Missouri Arts Council, but you can find out what's going on in the arts world all over the state of Missouri. And if you have specific questions, reach out on their phone number, which is 866-407-4752. That's the toll-free number. But thank you so much for being here. I mean, this is great. I know, again, like I started off saying, we always talk about Missouri Arts Council, but people don't recognize fully as a state agency what you do, and I appreciate you sharing that today. So thank you so much,
Sarah.
And thank you at home for watching, and keep it right here on STL TV, Experience St. Louis.